Welcome back. We are going to dig into the chorus of political voices wading into the unraveling situation in Iraq. There you saw some clips from the weekend and today. And from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue all the way to Capitol Hill in the Pentagon, we have not heard the last of the infighting. BuzzFeed's Washington Bureau Chief John Stanton is here to make some sense of it. Good day, sir.
It's good to be here.
Let me start with this. This is a tough situation. The politics have been a part of the Iraq debate since the beginning. It seems like what we're hearing both from the old Bush folks who have popped up, as well as some elements, not all, but some elements of the Republican Party, is a desire to relitigate the exit of this conflict, our exit, and potentially the surge, while trying to avoid the original sin of going in. Let me ask you on straight politics, is that a winning approach?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that it's certainly to anybody that follows politics, it's been a little bit odd to see, Wolfowitz and some of these old hands that seem to have been a bit discredited by the end of the Bush administration to suddenly reappear and start, pointing fingers back at the Bush or the Obama administration to try to put this all on them. I think that at this point, whether he likes it or not, President Obama does own this war. He does own sort of the situation that is there, rightfully or wrongly.
Now, when you say this war, I'm just going to jump in. Does he own the war that he's left? Because the war there is a civil war. He clearly made a break with the past administration's policy to get out.
He did, but I mean, this is happening on his watch. We've been involved in some manner throughout this entire Civil War. Whether it's have advisors or have American contractors there. So, this is definitely sort of his reality. And even if it's unfair, as the guy that's running the country right now, it always sort of ends up, falling in their lap, frankly. And it's a reality that I think the administration is going to have to come to terms with pretty quickly, especially as they make their decisions on what they want to do next. Because I think those fights are going to be much bigger and have much longer-term political consequences for them than sort of what's the current state of play.
John, we heard a little bit from Lindsey Graham there in the intro. He was talking about how he sees the next 9/11 as coming from the region, and he sees this result as inevitable. Do you think those sorts of scare tactics still have the same purchase with the American people that they once did?
No, I don't. And again, it's sort of odd to hear Republicans sort of making this, this case of, well, we're now creating a new batch of terrorists.
Odd is such a charitable word.
Well, yes, this was something that, like, a lot of people on the left said, 10 years ago. But I do think that the public is just so fatigued by being involved in wars, by being involved in Iraq in general, that there is a fairly high level of acceptance of there's a lot of bad things going on there. We don't want to become involved in it. And I think, still at this point, these kind of arguments aren't having the kind of a scare tactic, like you say, on the public that one might anticipate.
John, you mentioned the return of some blasts from the past. We've had Paul Bremer back, who people might remember as the Bush administration's administrator in Iraq, who disbanded the Iraqi army. Not one of the best decisions we made in that process. He was on the Today Show this morning with some advice for John Kerry about what he thought should be done in Iraq now.
Secretary Kerry ought to be sent there right away, and he ought to stay there until he can get a broad, unified government that gives some confidence to the Sunnis and Kurds that this is not just us supporting a continued sectarian Shiite government.
The thing that's so weird about this to me is who cares what Paul Bremer thinks? It feels like we have two groups on the Republican side talking a lot about this. One is these ex-Bush administration officials trying to rehabilitate their image as people who got us into Iraq. And then you have people like John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Kelly Ayotte, who have been sort of beating the drum since actually, frankly, before the Bush administration for action in Iraq. Is this something that people who are the future of the Republican Party, people who might be running for president in 2016, do they have any eagerness to pick this fight? Or is this sort of people who really are very directly invested in the Bush administration record?
Yeah, I think certainly, Brenner or Judith Miller, these kind of folks coming sort of out of the woodwork are definitely doing some rehabilitation of their own images, I think. And I think that, the positions that Lindsey Graham or John McCain are taking are not necessarily those that a lot of the sort of people that we're seeing right now running for president on the Republican side are going to take. I don't think you're going to see, for instance, Rand Paul come out and really get aggressive and hawkish, right? I mean, he's always been sort of not an isolationist necessarily, necessarily, but certainly someone who does not believe that we should be becoming militarily engaged in these kind of conflicts. There are those, though, within the Republican Party, I can think of maybe Jeb Bush or maybe even Chris Christie, these kind of folks that may find a middle ground between those two extremes, where they do believe that there should be some kind of engagement, but maybe not to the level that, a McCain or an Ayotte wants, but certainly not the disengagement that the libertarians want.
John, these sort of situations are so important. I mean, when we're arguing in America about our policy debates, those are super important, but they're not always about American lives and foreign lives in the balance in a very intimate and intense sort of way. And politicizing these sort of moments and sort of adding a lot of political noise to the commander-in-chief's decision matrix seems to me to be extremely dangerous and extremely selfish.
Yeah, that's been sort of I think the oddest thing, frankly, about the Bush folks coming out of retirement to sort of talk about these things, because it does seem like an odd moment to try to come out and make yourself look like you were actually making really good decisions, 10 years ago or whatever. But I do think that the White House and the people that are going to be directly involved in some of these decisions are able to, walk and chew gum at the same time occasionally. And sort of these kind of foreign policy matters are the few times where I think they've demonstrated the ability to do that. So I would hope at least that they could sort of fight on this political side with one hand, but actually figure out the detailed policy on the other without it conflicting too much.
Yeah, and we often talk about Obama's political legacy at home being Obamacare. It is most certainly leaving Iraq is his legacy abroad, and that's now contested, and some want to seize on that. We'll see, of course, as this news unfolds, where we go from here. John Stanton, thanks for your time today. And up next,